I like the elevation of Carolyn's office. When I was at Tulane, we were just like a little place in the basement. And I think that, now that it's up to that level, it gets more visibility for the African American students there. And, kind of speaks to that they add value to the university. And I think that's really important in a city like New Orleans that they're helping to have students of color matriculate. I think it really adds value to the community, at large. I think that's really good of Tulane.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing a lot of students applying for things where there's always this feeling that I'm not qualified enough. So they're taking the initiative to push themselves to enter spaces that they don't see themselves being heard or represented in. There's a lot more confidence to take these spots. And there's also just this drive in students in their classrooms to really question what they're being taught and is this actually applicable or transferable in their careers.
Thank you. Um, it sounds like a lot has changed, especially as you mentioned, going to one, the transferable skills part, increasing in the representation on campus, and also understanding the interdisciplinary approach and the value. And I think COVID has definitely shown us that as well, in regards to the fact that our School of Medicine students also need to have an understanding of public health in order to be effective. Um, so with that, how did y'all's involvement on campus prepare you for your careers?
So I work as a student assistant at the clinical translational unit while I was doing my master program. Like previously mentioned, that those internship experience and the network that you build through that internship will be a really good channel for you to kind of express your interest to different people, possibly in your field, and then don't really be afraid of show your ambitions and your goals. And then once people know that, and then that's how you can have your network really at work. So that's my advice to anyone, to just go out there trying to get internship. Don't be afraid of networking, and then be ambitious.
Yeah, I would say that while I was at Tulane, I know my junior year and my senior year, there were medical school students there in New Orleans who came over to the campus and did sort of mock interviews with us and talked to us and told us, what life as a med student was like. And so that really helped. And once I graduated from Tulane, there were two people who were ahead of me, Marcia Lebrano, one, who was able to help me with my application process and help me with my interviewing process. And so I credit her especially a lot with getting me ready and, getting me accepted to medical school.
But for me, participating in campus activities on Tulane helped me to better understand my strengths and how to carry that over into my career. And also those things that I just wasn't strong at. Being in a collaborative environment when involved in student activities, and someone pointing out to you, well, I need you to do this. I really like when you do that. And being able to carry that over once I graduated, it really helped me to understand, I guess, better what I was able to offer in strengths when I did go into my professional career. And I think to the extent possible that students can get involved in those campus activities, it really helps, for lack of a better term, kind of work out the kinks and help you understand yourself better. And I think that can translate into being more confident when you do go into the workplace.
Definitely, thank you.
I mean, I also think that being at an institution like Tulane, where we we're sitting in classrooms side by side. I mean, let's just be frank here, with like in many cases being the only Black person or the only person of color in a class has helped us. I think for a lot of us has helped us to be able to navigate that world after college, because for a lot of us, we still are the only one.
Absolutely.
And when we have, for us to be able to develop that sort of network within our own groups on campus, whether it's in the UC playing dominoes or spades, or even just getting together and forming study groups together, and kind of having that student mentorship where upperclassmen and upperclasswomen take a freshman or sophomore under their wings and say, look, you got to talk, like, if you're going to take this course, do it with this professor, because this one's cool. Like, this one's cool. This one, you'll notice that all the Black kids in their class have lower grades, things like that. I mean, so like building our own network internally, because that has transferred to real life, at least for me, outside of that. I mean, I have periodic Zoom meetings with a lot of my Black colleagues from companies that I've worked at, and we all just sit down, sometimes have a cocktail or two because we still at happy hour, and just talk about things that you don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about in the workplace or in the office, and troubleshooting things that we see in the workplace. And those are valuable skills, and remembering to help each other out, to be that handheld, to lift someone else up when they are feeling down. Because that support that we had, and Carolyn really fostered that with us, it's something I've carried with me throughout my entire career.
Thank you. So what do y'all think are the skills that students coming out of undergrad or even grad school looking to enter the workforce in the middle of a pandemic will need?
I think students have to be resourceful and resilient. It's no playbook. I used to be able to give advice to a lot of interns and fellows that I would mentor, but I think now, even when we look at graduates or mid-year or very senior professionals changing jobs or changing positions, we have to be resilient and resourceful. I do think that there is a market for graduates. I definitely think it's that, it's more of an issue about being, not necessarily having the job that you might have thought you wanted when you graduate. I think we all have thoughts about what we want to do, but really being open to what's out there. I know the industry's definitely still hiring. Public health is absolutely hiring. So I think it's about being, thinking about what you need to do now, and then thinking about how this is going to ultimately lead you down the path that you want to go.
And y'all can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
What we're finding, and what I'm finding, is that people need an entrepreneurial spirit, no matter what they're doing. Most of our clients are in healthcare and other licensed professions, and the people who are not go-getters have good time management skills and something other than a doer, which is having that entrepreneurial spirit. They are not successful, no matter what area, profession, or discipline you go into. So I think with my group, and Dr. Higgs can speak to that, we were all kind of put out there by Tulane. Like, you better go do this, you better go do that. Here are the companies. Get the internship, talk to the owners or executives of those companies, and figure out what you need to do. And myself personally, I felt a lot of pressure to go get that internship and meet with the founders or executives. And it's the reason I started my firm, because my internships at Katz and Asher in New Orleans, the partners were like, look, if you're in this profession more than 15 years and you're not a partner or an owner of a firm, you're not representing Tulane. You're not doing anything. So I set a 15-year goal from day one. It didn't take that long due to racism in the profession. It took like 5. But it's the entrepreneurial spirit, and it exists everywhere in terms of our alumni. If you have it, you won't have any problems.
I mean, to piggyback on that a little bit, in this COVID environment, and let's be real, we're probably going to be in this COVID environment for another several months, probably after a lot of the seniors graduate this May. When you're working remotely, as a lot of offices have done, you kind of almost have to be an entrepreneur because you are basically setting your own schedule, and you are accountable to yourself and to your teammates and to everybody else, and it's all on the line. And you have, like, as an entrepreneur, it's all on the line. If you mess up, your company fails. There is no backdrop, or there's a backstop rather. But when you're working remotely like this, everything is hyper focused on you. And I have seen some younger graduates at my firm, and I've heard from colleagues in other places that have struggled with being in this environment, because they're not used to having to really schedule themselves and count on themselves and be able to lift themselves up when necessary, or know when to call for help when necessary. And I think that's something that we have to, and by we I mean those of us on this panel, as well as other Black alums and maybe even upperclassmen right now, need to kind of impart that upon the next generation, because we have to be there for each other to help us rise up, because it's gonna be harder out there.
And I think when it, to kind of piggyback on what they're saying and related to medicine in a way, you've got to be a well-rounded person. I can remember being at Tulane, and it was about getting my grades, but it was also about, back then we called it the African American Congress of Tulane, and we were bringing speakers in and doing all sorts of things with the community. And so it made you a whole full person, and you got to know what your passions were, and you got to act upon those. And when it comes to medicine, now those students who are getting into medical school, or those students who are sitting in front of communities and in front of the committee and showing them that they're a whole person, that it's not just about medicine, but this is what I can also bring as a physician. And those are the ones who do well and write those get great letters of recommendations, because people really like them and see and find a lot in them, and know that they're going to serve their patients well. And so I really, really think it's just all about finding your passion and being able to promote yourself and being self-determined, and oftentimes in more than just one vein than your career, because I think that also spills over into physician burnout. Those physicians who get burned out are those physicians who don't have a great family life, and who aren't exercising their passions in other ways than the office or the hospital.
Yeah, you make a really good point, Nicole. Where are folks finding that balance outside of your current roles and careers? What does that balance look like for y'all? I know, Joe, you mentioned that you're having, happy hours virtually with colleagues, but what do you do to find and strike that balance in your lives?
Well, I live in Atlanta, and as everybody knows, Atlanta traffic is terrible. I'm on the south side, my office is on the north side. So before COVID, I was looking at an hour to an hour and a half commute each way. Now I don't have that. And I've taken that time to walk my dogs in the morning. And in the middle of the day, because I can just take that break a little bit, go sit out in my patio and read for 10, 15 minutes. Or then in the evenings, when I force myself to stop working, because that's another thing, you have to tell yourself, you don't have to kill yourself doing this stuff. But I will sit down, go outside on the front porch, on the back patio someplace, and just read. It's funny, I had a New Year's resolution to read more. And specifically, I told myself that I was going to read more African American women writers. So I've been doing that all year, and it's been incredible, and read a lot. I mean, because when you sit down and take an hour or two a day reading, you go through books, and it gets your mind off of the work stuff, and getting outside gets you out, like, from looking at screens and everything else. And I think really that just get some exercise and exercise your mind in a different way.
During COVID, what I've started doing, I work in the emergency room, and what I've started doing is just making sure that I take my lunch. I think during my 12-hour shifts, I never would really focus on that. And now I do. Get outside, go outside, walk around the building, just do something to get away from it. And then doing yoga, I added that in during COVID, just to kind of help.
I definitely agree. Routine is important. Our group, every business traveler, we've been grounded. So it's like hours and hours and hours and hours of Zooms. And I can say that at the beginning of the pandemic, it grates on your mental health because it was such a radical transformation in your lifestyle. So I think, again, just centering yourself and getting a routine of things that are healthy, now that you only have time, reading a lot, all those New Year's resolutions, all those things that we said, I wish I had more time to do, like thinking about those things and trying to implement that in your everyday life.
I'm really liking the responses I'm hearing. I'm actually taking notes to try to get more balance. But what I've been really trying to do lately is being very intentional with the time I spend with my daughter, because it just goes by so quickly. She's 8, but I could just remember it's like yesterday when we brought her home, and so just being particularly in an environment such as this with the not only COVID, but the obvious racial inequities, and trying to explain to her as best that I can what's going on. And so just making sure that I help nurture her has been one of my focuses as of late. And really, again, liking the purposeful time and being really intentional with my time and the notes that this panel has shared. And so so that's where I am as far as like the work-life balance is going.
I've spent the time streamlining the firm, making it very hard to call it a Black firm. We are a firm that happens to have a lot of brown people in it, very talented people. I've been boating and fishing way more. I've done more of that during COVID than I've done in the last 20 years. And our firm has grown. So COVID has been a blessing because it forced some things. And finally, I have been laser focused on the wealth accumulation process. This is the largest transfer of wealth in the history of this country, and brown people are not paying attention. But there are more brown people making more than 40 grand as an individual and more than 63,000 as a household. And a household is 4 people. Most people don't know that. So if you make more than 63 grand, you're making more than the typical 4-person household, which could be 4 adults. So I've been getting the word out, educating my staff, teaching my kids who are 14 and 13, because although we've streamlined the firm and I've been fishing, if you are into making money or are dealing with money and you do not see what's going on right now, all I can call you is stupid. If you went to Tulane, you should not be stupid and you should be paying attention to what's happening right now. So that's how I've used my time.
I was one of those folks after I left Tulane, I went to school for a very long time. So I was late getting married and having a baby. So I think that now I'm focused more on my family, working took precedent for a long time, and COVID kind of allowed me to look back around me, my distant family and my immediate family, just spending time and talking and get to know them and understanding and just having, conversations. I think it's been really valuable for me. It's affirmed me. There's a lot of things I thought that I was sharing with people that I had experienced, I had not. So, just to talk to my friends and families and cousins and nephews and nieces and everybody, just talk about a lot of things, you really, really to pour into them, during this time. So it's really been good just to spend time with family.
Zharia, you were gonna add a point.
Oh, I was just gonna say, being in the journalism industry and having to take in a lot of news every day can get tiresome and weary. So I make sure to put some comedy in between that.
Comedy. Awesome.
Yeah, I can always remember in my undergrad being a part of so many things and prioritizing other people's needs and tasks I had to get done over my own health. I remember just going to the O and just passing by with Zharia, always had like a joke just to say, but it was just because those times were so brief that now I'm learning to put my phone on do not disturb. I'm learning how to put a auto message on my email after 5 that says I'm going to contact you on Monday when I get back into the office. And I'm also working out and changing my habits, changing my lifestyles, and meditating for the first time, which if you knew me in undergrad, I always told everyone that meditation was fake and dumb and I would never do it ever. But I've appreciated just learning that I don't breathe as often as I thought I did. I never took the time to just calm down. So that's an opportunity that I've seen with COVID, but one highlight where I've actually have time for myself to learn more about myself and to take that time to be by myself while still balancing reaching out with my friends, family, and checking in on them and having them check in on me and accepting that communication.
That's the interesting thing about one of the things that has been interesting about this whole COVID thing is learning the value of time. At least for me, it has. In that, a couple of things with that. What's been said about the meditation and the breathing, and yeah, I'm just totally amen in that, because it just it changes your whole being, your whole spirit and outlook, just to be able to breathe and calm down. Because otherwise when you're rushing and you're going from one place to the other, you're not being intentional with your breath. And that's very important. And also, as far as time, it is the most valuable thing. I mean, most of us, and Tulane graduates in general are very, purposeful people, and very ambitious, and making money is well and good, but at the same time, your time is the most valuable thing. And so finding ways to, even at work, to be more efficient, so that you can spend time doing the things that you really love doing, be it with yourself or with your family, or getting together with friends and laughing and what have you, I think is very important.
Along that line, I think gratitude is very important too. I live in South Florida, and COVID has got a lot of people out of work, and a lot of people just not doing well. And so I volunteer at a food pantry. And it really, really is amazing to see how on a Friday morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, we will by noon have put food baskets in 1,000 cars. And so it's just, being grateful and trying to give back has helped me out through all of this.
Are any of y'all members of fraternities or sororities? And if so, how has that impacted your professional experiences?
Yeah, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. It's awesome. Not just my work, but church, everywhere. I mean, sorors are everywhere doing wonderful things. At the food pantry that I'm volunteering for, certainly the sorority, about 3 or 4 of the chapters in this area, it's almost like a meeting when we go there because there's so many of us helping out. And then on the community level, you've got different sorors who are working, who are running for political office. And so that's helped as well. And then the hospital system that I'm in is a 5-hospital system, and one of the CEOs is one of my sorors. So it's awesome.
I think I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi, and COVID has just caused people to get things done. There are people getting it done in groups, but then there are folk who are super busy. Like myself, we stay in touch with the groups and we get things done in silos. I'm seeing a lot more fraternity men, Omegas, Alphas, Kappas, out doing things with their kids. So we volunteer. We may miss a voting drive, but the other day we were in line for 5 hours and 19 minutes. All of the guys, the Omegas, the Alphas, Kappas, Sigmas, every man had their child with them. Because you can't take a child in every state, but in Georgia, we could take our kids in the voting booth. So you're seeing a lot of that. Community work, siloed work, group work, and people spending time with their kids. And the women are just on a different level right now. And I don't know if it's Kamala Harris. I have no idea, but the sororities are just, it's ridiculous in a good way. They're just on a different level. They're doing everything and working and paying fees to my firm. It's unreal. We have more female clients than we have men. I mean, women are just doing it. It's just on a different level.
So I know some of y'all are in or approaching graduate school, and I really do want y'all to talk a little bit about your journey in that transition from being an undergraduate and making the decision to go to graduate school and what that's looked like for y'all.
So it has been a fairly recent for me since I just graduated with my master. Prior to coming, I actually did my undergrad in Albany, New York, and worked there in the hospital bedside for a year before I come down to Tulane to pursue my master's. That was a decision. It just at that point I knew that I want to be in the field of medical genetics. And to be honest, through the previous interaction and networking opportunity I had, someone from Columbia University actually told me that a lot of life-changing decisions that we made, even though we think that we made a lot of analysis, collected all this information for, but a lot of them are just in the second of impulse. So me coming down to Tulane is, it's kind of like that. To be honest, I moved here within 2 months that I got accepted. But at the same time, I'm not for all those spontaneous decisions that you might have made. It's very important that you build up yourself for it. And this, even though I know for a lot of people, I told them, "Yep, I'm moving down to New Orleans for within a month." But at the same time, there's I did a lot of work in my undergrad. I try to be the top students. It's all those preparations that you need to do, and then build up you to this person that when the opportunity comes, you have all the qualifications to be a part of it. And then the transition from undergrad to grad school, I definitely focus on academia a lot more. Most of the time are devoted to school, but at the same time, don't forget where your end goal is. That's why I still did a part-time job, trying to put in a lot of hours, network with people. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do the job right after I graduate in this pandemic. So just always learning, always have this mindset. I think this is very important.
I'll agree with Maggie on the spontaneous front because I definitely went to Syracuse on a whim. It was the only school I applied to, and when I got in, I was like, well, that's what the Lord said, so that's what it's going to be. But it definitely showed me that I did a lot of things in undergrad that I am able to use now, internship wise and experience wise, and I just didn't keep track of it. I didn't even, you don't know what you're doing until you can look back on it. And the internships I had at Tulane are helping me get jobs right now.
I don't know about, it's just the thing with taking on impulses. That's what gets stuff done, because that's what pushed me to apply for grad school now. Because after I graduated, I needed a break from everything. I just had to get away from academia. But now that I'm in the workforce and I figured out what I want, I had to be impulsive to push myself to go and apply and push myself to even push obstacles and boundaries in my future that I'm not seeing right now, and just continue to build my network. One piece of advice I would say for seniors and juniors even who are looking for graduate schools, let people know that you're looking for that, because you never understand how powerful the network that Tulane is that want to see you go there. Like letters will come out for you, support and love and appreciation, connecting people where you didn't know about. And also the GRE right now is available to take at home because of COVID. So students with test anxiety or any form, because I took it at home and I had a great experience doing that. So I would definitely say take this time as an advantage to at least take that GRE right now.
Thank you. That's all really good advice. It sounds like y'all are talking about impulses, and Maggie, you mentioned being ready or like having all the qualifications. So to the folks who are, well into their careers, how did you make sure that you had choices available to you when you graduated to be able to take advantage of a variety of opportunities? Was there any intentionality? I know we're talking a lot about impulses and everybody being in different career spaces than where they may have set out to go, but was there any level of intentionality that went into your choosing your path, and what ways did you intentionally prepare for the career paths that you're seeing yourselves in now?
When I was
Oh,
at Tulane, I did an internship and a fellowship with Indian Health Service and with CDC. So I had in my mind that I'm going to work for CDC. I want to be a branch chief one day. And when I got to CDC as in a permanent position, I realized that's not what God had for me. So I left and actually moved to DC by myself and worked at the health department. But I was able to do so many diverse and interesting things because what I learned at Tulane, I think what I learned in my fellowships is if you volunteer to do something and you're young and hungry, people will allow you to do it and you gain so much more experience. And so from that position, I was able to work on the national HIV/AIDS strategy with the White House and do a lot of other things because I wasn't scared to let one dream go of working at the CDC forever. And it opened up so many other doors for me to do a variety of different things. I do think the variety of things that I did early on in my career prepared me for the job that I have now. Because again, if you would have told me when I graduated that I'd be working for a biopharma company, I would have said you were a lie and they were the devil and all these other things. But I matured in my way of thinking. And I think that was because I had contact with so many other people and industries and really learned how the public and private sector need to work together to accomplish big problems. So I would just say, my intention was always, I'll do it. I was always volunteering for things. But while I did have a plan and I did have a strategy, don't hold so firm to it that you don't allow yourself to get other opportunities to do different things and better things that you can think about than you could have thought about yourself.
I would say I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would say for me, when I was at Tulane, the best advice that I got was do something that you like and you'll always have a job. And that has really led me through my career. And I want to, agree with Tiffany in that leaving places like the federal government, going out into those uncomfortable places has really been very, very positive in the experiences that I've had, to lead you to be a national expert. And that passion that you have will drive you to do different things, try different things, learn more, because you'll be intrinsically motivated to do well because you really like what you're doing. And that really helps you. And I would also say one thing that I learned from my experience, and I think that really has helped me in my career, is that trust the process. So you will graduate from Tulane and have a Tulane degree, and so you are quote unquote really prepared. So work your way up the ladder. Have all various experiences in different places and different times and take it with you because cumulatively, when you get to that executive level, you can have a different vantage point because you would have experienced so many things. So don't rush yourself through it. It is a process. It unfolds over time and really, enjoy that, especially when you're young and you don't have as much responsibility, just really go for it. Like she said, move to different cities, work for different organizations and learn everything that you want to know about whatever you're doing. And you really will always have a comfort level. People will always seek you out because you will become an expert because you have the training, education, and the experience. And it really will last a long time through your career if you just trust the process and really, take chances and do different things.
Yeah, I like that trust the process. My situation was intentional. I grew up on a shrimp boat and didn't want to do that for a living. And one of my teachers told me that if I was an accountant, I would never have to work on a shrimp boat again. So I left high school wanting to be an accountant. When I got to Tulane, they were like, that accounting thing is crazy. You want to be a CPA. I had never heard of a CPA. And then Bo Parent was like, look, there's 1 million Black accountants. I don't think there's 5,000 Black CPAs. You need to go figure that out. So the intent became then at Tulane, yes, I'm going to stay an accountant, but I'm going to be a licensed accountant. Then when I got to my senior years, Dave Harvey and Bo Parent were like, look, you really need to go to grad school, you really want to do this CPA thing, and you want to work for the best. So then the intent became, I want number one. Arthur Andersen was number one before the Enron scandal. They didn't look at me in undergrad. So that was part of my final decision to go to grad school, because my intent was, y'all gonna look at me and you're gonna ask me to come to work for you. So I did the master's program at Tulane, and because I was intentional on Arthur Andersen, I got 16 offers, but until that 17th one came, I did not make a decision. So I'm sure y'all know where the 17th offer came from. So it was intentional, but Tulane took the intent like 3 levels higher, because they showed me things that I did not know existed as a person coming out of high school. So, but that trust the process, I trusted the process from my high school teacher who told me, do this to get off the boat, to all those folk at Tulane who said, now you're off the boat, but you need to go number one and then do your own thing. And I have to say, finally, Bo Parent was pretty selfish, because he told me I needed to own my own firm so I can give Tulane some money. And he was like, if you stay employed your whole life, you might not be able to give the school any money. So I took all that stuff seriously and changed the intent along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I like my experience was also kind of similar to that, because I studied mathematics because I wanted to be an actuary, because that's what you do. I interned at Pan American Life in New Orleans and was with the actuarial department, then went on to work for the state of Louisiana. And then I took another actuarial job with another insurance company out in Texas, and then finally landed at a company in Atlanta. And then I realized that I didn't feel like being a full-fledged actuary. I wanted to get more into consulting and do more in front of the shop instead of behind the doors, because like in most of these other roles I was the guy in the back. So I was able to transfer skills into, and like in other words, be able to do all the actuarial work, but be able to explain it to HR clients. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm working with companies and their HR departments and developing their primarily their health insurance plans, but their entire benefits package. And my client base right now is mostly private equity owned companies. And part of my role is to go, like, is to speak to these private equity companies and say, okay, which of your portfolio groups need a little bit of help in their benefits area, and this is how we can do it for them. And I mean, obviously, COVID's made that a little more difficult because people aren't shifting their programs right now. But the thing is, what Tulane brought there for me was, each step along the way, yes, having your Tulane degree helps open doors, but having your Tulane network also opens even more doors. And when it comes to business associates and potential clients, it has opened many doors for me. In fact, at one of my jobs, a couple of our clients were owned by Tulane alumni, and one of them was owned by a former Tulane chairman of the board of directors. So we had to, when you trust the process, that process is talk to your peers, talk to your classmates, listen to your professors, listen to those out there in the world. When you graduate from Tulane, wherever city you live in, network with the other Tulane alumni out there. Go to the alumni events, talk to folks, and yes, eventually, and this is my alumni board hat I'm wearing for a second. Donate back to the school. Give back to the Office of Multicultural Affairs, because the work that is done there is going to help. It's going to help the next generation come through. It's going to give them the tools that they need to accomplish what we've done. So that's kind of where it is. But that's the end part of the process, right? Is lifting each other up. Because once we get to that top, we gotta stick the ladder down. And sometimes you gotta put your arm down there too and pull, and sometimes kicking and screaming, pull them up that ladder, because some folks may not know that needs to be how they do it. So yeah, that's just kind of a little bit off on a tangent there. But.
Thank y'all. So to kind of transition us a little bit, we're witnessing what some are calling a second civil rights movement. It depends on how you feel about whether the civil rights movement ever ended, but to see what we're seeing as far as activism and engagement, and also seeing folks like Kamala Harris at the top, at the VP position of the Democratic ticket. We are seeing a reckoning on race, and that's rippled into various professions and fields. So how is that connecting to y'all's professions? How is that showing up in your workplace, and how are you feeling about the way that it's showing up in your profession or in the workplace?
For me, I work at Black Child Development Institute. And so in my workplace, now there's a focus on Black children. And so maybe a year ago, there was not. So I always have mixed reviews to say, do you really care, or is it really popular? And to push forward on behalf of the kids, like to remove myself from a preconceived notion of why you're reaching out to know more about equity and diversity and inclusion, to see it as an opportunity to really bring some resources into the community for young Black children. So it's challenging. There are a lot of long conversations around, should we move ahead with this partner, or should we, pass on an opportunity, because in the long run, it may not be best for the children and families that we're serving. So it's definitely different. And we're still trying to figure out, is this something, this new interest, is it going to last, over a good period of time? Or if something different happens in November, what would it look like? So it's really at the forefront of what we're doing every day, and we're still trying to figure it out day by day.
I think for me, I went from an environment like in public health that celebrates diversity and Blackness to then working in corporate America where it's very different. Like we were the majority in some of the public health organizations I worked in the past. And when I came to the company I work for now, I think we're like 3% of 11,000 people. It's a global company. So I think the murder of George Floyd really made a lot of white people across the country very uncomfortable. I don't know if it was because of COVID and everybody was dialed in. We've seen Black people murdered on tape several times. This is not the first time, but I think what was different now is that our CEO had a call with all the Black employees, and there was an opportunity for people to speak about the microaggressions that they experience in the workplace and how the culture is not affirming, as well as what it is to be Black in America and then have to come to this non-affirming place. So overall, I think a lot of these conversations I've heard from a lot of my friends are happening in corporate America. We have a new initiative called Advancing Black Leaders. I have my Globe background here, Gilead, Leaders of Black Excellence. So there's a transformation happening because I think Black people are tired, we are bothered. And as you said, I think there was maybe a lull in the civil rights movement where it wasn't so aggressive. I think a lot of that has to do with the political climate, but I think where we sit in our seats, wherever our tables are, we understand that I'm doing this not only for myself, but I'm also doing it for the Black employees that come behind me. Mm-hmm. Had a commitment from our company to hire like 100 Black interns, bring them out to California so that, San Francisco is very white. I don't think a lot of my colleagues have been around Black people in mass and have seen Black excellence before. So those are the things we had a commitment to advance, X amount of Black executives. So I think this civil rights movement is happening in the streets, but it's also happening in the boardrooms. And I think they're equally important because, as William said, we have to try and move our economic interests forward as well. And I don't think we necessarily can do that by marching in the streets only. We have to take advantage of all our talents.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Tiffany just said, I mean, my company, which is headquartered in San Francisco as well, the senior leadership team, like immediately after George Floyd's murder, first they put out an email, and I took a picture. I took my phone out, took a picture of my monitor because our white male CEO at the end of his email in all caps said Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And shortly thereafter, we got an email from our VP of HR asking for everybody to let them know how we feel. And they put together a booklet with statements from employees across the country. And I put my entry in there because I felt that it needs to be said, and you get to ask me to be anonymous. I chose not to because I know that I want to have those conversations with people. And we had a lot of conversation about it. They on our quarterly all hands Zoom calls, our senior leadership has not just spoken about what they want to do, but they've actually done research. And I mean, in our field, they recognize that our field is largely white because at first they're like, well, we should have more Black executives. Why don't we have more Black executives? And then they're looking at it like, well, wait, okay, so we have these 3 or 4 people, but why don't we have more? We have some at this level, some at this level. Then they recognize that across the industry, there aren't as many Black folk. So then they ask the question, how do we fix that? So they are going on an initiative to try to hire more Black people fresh out of school and basically train everybody up and other things in that area. So that's one initiative that they're taking, but they're also trying to foster a more nurturing environment, a more compassionate environment, an environment in which our voices are actually heard. Now, again, this is only a few months old. We'll see how it looks in July of 2021. I mean, versus July and August of 2020. But from initial conversations, it has been I've seen some changes out there in North America, and I've talked to friends and colleagues at other firms, and they're seeing changes as well. So, like on that front, it is. I think a difference is being made in the boardroom in some places, but there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, and I see the work that our Black Student Union at Tulane is doing. Going to the administration and saying, we will take this space. This is our space, and in fact, we want more of this space, and we need more energy like that. And we need everybody to support our students in that, and also to support our colleagues who want to sit down and say this is our space, because we can't do this alone. We can't do this alone, and we all want. If we want to grow, if we want to continue, then we need to fight. And I know I talked to Carolyn about this a couple of homecomings ago. I think part of the blame is on my generation. I'm a Gen Xer. We grew up without real segregation in our lives. We were born after the Civil Rights Act. We were born after all the schools were integrated, and we thought, okay, things are great. We can go here, we can go there. Nobody's chasing us with dogs. Nobody's blowing hoses at us and stuff. And we got a little complacent, I think. And I think all of us need to step up and keep the fight going. And the fight is different now than it was in the 60s. It's different from what it was in the mid 90s. It's totally different now. And to William's point again, the battle is economic. And we need to do more. And that's kind of how I feel about that. It's just. We all gotta do our part.
I there's just so much good that everything that's been said. Um, there's coming to thinking about my time in Tulane, where I worked with the Black Student Union students organizing against racism, being their co-convener of color, and it was always that drive for people to always make racists feel uncomfortable, always make white allies and white moderates feel uncomfortable, always make non um, non non-black POCs feel uncomfortable when there comes to this point of being complacent. It's making people identify and say white supremacy. I found myself in just my office space, even me and a couple of other people are some of the youngest people in these office spaces. Um, we're seeing sort of like the patterns of white supremacy pop up, patterns that we saw in our undergrad, and we're all standing together and encouraging each other and pushing our supervisors and our other peers who work with us to acknowledge that something is right, that there's some injustice that is being done. So it's always just reminding people that, and let me back up a second. It's always this fear that with all this work that's being done, especially the recent action with BSU and the athletes. I want to say this happening today or it just happened. Um, that would never have gotten done in my years of being at Tulane. So just to see that all of the work from 50 years ago and counting has just been getting louder and more powerful. The message is more powerful, and it's sort of dragging the administration to sit down and listen and sit down and make changes, sit down and commit the promises and calling them out when they don't follow through. Always it's always reminding Tulane that this is a space that belongs to all folks, and we demand to see that. And I just want to also acknowledge not only BSU's on the work, but NS NSPE, the National Society of Black Engineers, African American Woman Society, May Griot Violette, and also just all of the offices underneath the multicultural committee, Muslim Student Association, Asian American Student Union, GATU, like all of these organizations are looking at the strife that not only they felt, but they see their Black and Brown and Indigenous peers also feeling, and they're using their space and their energy to push exactly what has been said since 50 years ago. This moment, because what they see, which is the truth, that when everything is perfect at Tulane for Black bodies and Black voices to be acknowledged and succeed and thrive, then everybody will be taken, everyone will be taken care of.
Definitely. Thank you, Anthony. I think y'all really captured a lot of the sentiment that's happening in the workplace and in your spaces. I did want to pivot to the grad school experience. Zharia or Maggie, if you had anything to add in regards to how the reckoning with race in this country is showing up in that experience or in graduate education.
Well, certainly, because I did my undergrad in Albany, New York. All my friends were from New York City, so it was truly a reflection of a melting pot. And then I enjoyed that culture very much. However, I definitely agree with Joseph that it is economic. The problem is economic, because even witnessing two of my really close Black friends, one grew up, typical suburban upper middle class, and another one in the ghettos of New York and Bronx. How they make their life choices are also drastically different too. And however, and then it also goes back to how in the workplaces there are so few Black executives, that also trace back to how, I mean, that trace back to the whole racism history, that how, Black people weren't they didn't have the rights to do all these. And then unfortunately, the department I'm in, it's super white. I'm sorry, like Tulane is just really white for me, and I would love to be able to participate in more movements that advocate for issues like that. But I know, for example, for the School of Medicine, there's this I actually forgot his name. We did for AAMC did award a scholarship to a Black student who really tried to advocate for minorities in medicine. I think he made a national headline by bringing 15 Black students back to the plantation, and then took a picture, kind of just in the memories of all the hard work that Black people has done for this country, and then just raise the awareness of that. So I only been to New Orleans for 1 year, but I'm hoping to be more engaged in this aspect of it as well. So yeah, also just being in panel like this, sharing resources. So hopefully, yeah.
Going from Tulane to Syracuse really wasn't that big of a change because they're both PWIs. So I was kind of used to the microaggressions, but what was interesting was professors and white students getting on Zoom calls and saying things like, "I'm so sorry," and stuff like that. But while it was weird at first, I think only thing that has really changed is the number of diversity and inclusion positions that are open right now and are looking for people of color to fill those spots. But I really think the environment hasn't too much changed. People are just having a trend to talk about.
Yeah, I definitely.
It would be nice if we decided to hire Black people and other people of color in positions more than just the diversity and inclusion roles too. Because I mean, we can do more than that. We're capable of being more than just experts on diversity and inclusion. And that's something that I think, well, we have, I know some of us have been pushing back at our corporate leadership, just like to remind them that, we have these other talents. I will say there's something rather something Zharia said remind me that I did have a lot of phone calls and text messages from white friends of mine, and I played rugby, so I had a lot of white friends there. But they were all like, "Hey, can we talk?" Because they didn't realize. Yes, there is something different about George Floyd's murder that that brought out a lot of stuff in white people because they just came out and were wondering just what was going on. And there was a reckoning of some sorts. And for some people, it kind of died down quickly. But for others, I think it has continued because some of these conversations are still going on. And if y'all remember the Wendy's that got burned in Atlanta, that was 2 exits north of me. So, I mean, that was kind of that really brought it home for me personally too, because I mean, for the most part, as a Black man who grew up middle class in New Orleans, and I mean, I've had police harassment. I've never been killed by police or anything, but I've had police harassment, targeting, all that stuff. But when you see the anger and the outrage that others felt, that I also felt, but when it's that close to home, and talking to other people about it, and then also being able to express that to white allies and explain to them, you know, that time that you made that joke, that leads to this. I mean, and I mean, just like Anthony said, calling it out and pointing out, yo, I had to end relationships because it was bad. Because I mean, and some of these folks don't realize it. I mean, I deleted my Facebook. That people probably didn't realize it, but part of the reason I deleted my Facebook was because I just got tired of seeing that stuff, and I don't need those people in my lives, like in my life. I think that's another lesson to the students right now is you don't need to put up with it. I mean, I did leave a job because I noticed that I noticed that they'd rather hire and promote the good old boys rather than me and others who look like me. When I confronted them on that, I was given a nonsense excuse. So the next day I started looking for another job and I changed companies. I mean, again, you don't have to put up with it. Don't let them dictate to you how you're going to live and function in this white supremacist world. And that's kind of where I am.
Thank you. Carolyn, I mean, I wanted to close out with you. I know you're hearing all of our alums talking about their experiences, and I know you've been historically founded our office and has been running the multicultural affairs space for more than 3 decades at Tulane. How are you feeling about as you're hearing everything, and what are your thoughts on the development of all your former students?
I'm sitting here feeling so old. I remember when many of you were freshmen. I remember so many experiences working with you through the office and organizations, listening about what was happening in class, just dealing with life. I am so impressed. I am so proud of all that you've become. I am most impressed that you want to pay it forward because there are so many students here who need some advice, who need to de-stress, who need to hear that and see folks in their shoes out there in the world making a difference. And I think that's very, very important. We will look forward to continuing our relationship with you. We don't ever want to you to leave and feel like there's not a place for come back and reunite with your friends, find out what's going on. We are keeping pressure on on the institution to do right by you by centering your voices and by constantly working with students to make sure that they feel not only that they're surviving, but they're thriving. And they're thriving because there are people who care about them. There are opportunities that are allowing them to succeed. Sometimes they just need a little extra push, some encouragement, some food, definitely. And we will continue to provide those programs and services. We are looking as we move into the new center, and yes, we are moving, and yes, it's going to happen. We hope to be in a center, hopefully right after Mardi Gras. We would love to engage and create an advisory group for the center. We would love to get Bantu back up and running, and are looking for leadership not only nationally, but in cities to help younger alum coming into those cities to kind of get introduced to the network. Y'all are amazing folks. You've got amazing contacts, and know that if you are interested in getting involved, we can definitely use you to help our current students. And that's what we're about. It's retaining our students and allowing them the opportunities so they can go and be who they want to be. I would ask before we leave, if there's anything y'all would have liked to have done or an experience you'd like to have had that you would impart to the students about doing this to graduate?
I'm sorry, what was that last part that you said?
I'm asking, is there anything that you didn't take advantage of, you wish you had, and you wanted to encourage the current students to do?
Oh, I would say without a doubt, it's networking more or keeping in touch with each other. Of course, you know, the social media outlets has made that easier, and I've been able to reconnect with former classmates, schoolmates. But you know, as you all move on to the next stage in life, just make sure to just constantly keep in touch with one another. Having that network of support is great. And I wanted to know too, whether or not it's easier for the younger panelists, whether or not you all find it easy to keep in touch with one another through the years.
Well, with now, I wouldn't. It's mixture. Like all the technology is there. Like that's one thing about it. We have phone numbers and Zoom calls. Is just building that desire and keeping on top of it. Have to motivate yourself to do it.
I think one thing I'm happy I did was I started to network across or horizontal instead of trying to go to the CEO or the Tulane alum that was already established. And when I realized I could make my own network circle, that helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's smart.
I definitely wish I took more advantage of really looking at my career and my classes and jumping in on more internships. And I know it's COVID now, so it's kind of hard to do it, but study abroad just to get a different perspective on how things work in the world.
You haven't studied abroad until you went with Miss Caroline.
What?
That's a different experience. I was saying you haven't studied abroad until you went with you.
I should have went that year. I don't know why I did.
You should have. You would have got kicked out.
Well, studying abroad is definitely one of the things you should do before you leave, if you can. COVID is making that really difficult now.
I think because I was in the School of Public Health, I wish I would have connected and did more on campus, on Tulane's campus. By that time, I was like, oh, my friends left. They graduated from Xavier. We're going to try to keep, this was before social media. So I was just with my little network, but I appreciate this opportunity to kind of get connected with the broader alumni. So I appreciate the invite.
Zharia, a lot of people are asking me, why don't we do an international trip for alumni? So that might be something that's on the horizon, is to create, because we created these, for those of you who don't know, we created these cultural immersion 2-week experiences where you got a chance to live with families in the culture, not stay in hotels, as well as tour and have class and have discussion. So, yeah, we're gonna.
Sounds good.
Will the alumni version be in hotels, or will that be with families?
Oh yeah. Well, it depends on what people want.
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably will be.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for your time today, especially on a weekend. Early voting in New Orleans has started. I know William mentioned earlier that he's gone out to vote. Please, if you're registered to vote, because most of the deadlines have passed to register, please get out and vote and encourage other people to do the same. You already got your sticker, Joe.
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm taking off on election day to take other people to the poll. How about that?
Yeah. A lot of first-time voters, I think, are going to show up on election day and be very surprised by the lines, but I'm seeing them already on our side. So it's good to see participation. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I hope this was an amazing homecoming. It's been very odd online, but it's been great to see all y'all's faces. So thanks for sharing this time with us throughout the week. And be sure to check out our website. The link is in the chat to see what we've been up to and what we'll be up to in the future.
One other
Thank
thing,
you.
Thanks for having me.
check out the Bantu Facebook page. Also is a great way to network with your classmates as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Y'all take care.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Sienna.
No problem. Y'all have a good one.